So this, the Good Law Project, right, complaining about Donald Trump, basically, and they're also complaining about, human rights and, women's rights and ethnic groups. And the girl from the Good Law Project, right, she's effectively saying, right, that all this European Convention on Human Rights, okay, and equality and those protected characteristics, that it's illegal to discriminate against them, right? Let's just take, for example, right, you got a barber shop, right, or a hairdresser's, okay, and let's say that a woman goes into the hairdresser's, let's say it's a barber's, right, and she's got some hair in her chin, right? So if the woman goes into the barber's, right, and she's got some hair in her chin, and then the guy who owns the barber says that he's not going to serve her, it's a barber shop for men, right? So then that's discrimination against a protected characteristic, right? And that is a crime, right? Because he's discriminating against her for her sex, right? Now, the thing is this, right? Firstly, this whole kind of rhetoric, this entire new wave of culture, which has taken up since this European Convention of Human Rights in the 1950s that we adopted, right? And let's remember, that European Convention in Human Rights, which that Clement Attlee, or whatever he was called, the Prime Minister, signed up to, and they completely hid our constitutional British rights and covered them up and undermined them, right, which are even more powerful for the individual regardless of what sex you are, because remember, women have always had the right to petition the government regardless of whether they could vote or not, okay? And also they'd be entitled to the protection as well for protesting, right? Now that was all hidden, and these new European Convention rights came in, which are they're extremely vague, right? They say, everyone has got the freedom of expression, but when it comes to it, you don't have the freedom of expression, because a person who doesn't like women, for example, isn't allowed to say that he doesn't like women because it's discrimination, right? Or someone who doesn't like the colour red, right? And they do art without the colour red, and they don't let the colour red in their house. And then if people are walking down the street, they express their dissatisfaction, right? Now, red is not a protected characteristic, right? But male and female are. But if you, if you were one of these women, like, that woman who's written that strongman book, right? Who's not keen on men. So, I've been to Scotland sometimes, and Scottish people have completely ignored me or blanked me, right? Not spoken to me because I've got an English accent, right? Surely that is discrimination, but I don't see English being a protected characteristic in that law. There's like sex, race, gender, right? I don't know about regional accent, if that comes under race or not, right? But this is the thing. The European directives, right, freedom of expression, is trying to make out that anyone is completely free to express themselves as they want and their views. But they're not. It's actually opposite. They're bringing in these protected characteristics which you're not allowed to manifest or express your beliefs of, because they're making it illegal, right? If you don't like men, right, you're not allowed to express that in how you live, right? By not speaking to them or not interacting with them, right? But that's the way of expressing yourself. So it's trying to make out that you're completely and totally free, right, as an individual, to express yourself in life, how you interact and act. But it's not. It's not. You're not. And it's not a codified law either. They claim this law that is so diverse and free, but because it's not codified, whenever you have a court case, it's not the law that defines it in the end. The law claims that anything goes, that you're completely free to express yourself how you want. But when it comes down to the legal cases, it's actually a judge who decides it, and not even your peers, not even a jury, because you never really get juries anymore, hardly. They phase juries out. So it's not even the judgment of your peers. It's actually Ministry of Justice judges who actually make the decisions on human rights decisions, not the people of the country, right? Because they've phased out juries, more or less, till there hardly are any unless you get a criminal case in a Crown Court, right? So freedom of expression claims that every individual human being is free to express themselves how they want, but then when you get to these cases, the peers don't judge what that should or should not be. It is Ministry of Justice judges in this country who decide. So it's freedom of expression of what a Ministry of Justice judge thinks is appropriate or not. Because that law is not codified. It's very vague, and that's why I don't like it, right? And then as they're doing it, they're actually making count every time you bring in one of these laws, right? Like, every time you enter one of these protected characteristics, right, it is a counter clause in the law which is codifying against freedom of expression of another person. You actually, every time you bring in a new protected characteristic, the people aren't allowed to express their freedom of expression about that characteristic. You're striking them off. You're striking off another person's freedom of expression every time you enter a protected characteristic, because it's completely illegal to have an opinion. It's illegal to discriminate in how you act and interact with, for example, for a business or possibly even in a social group or something. So it's not logical. It's illogical. I would challenge Joyland Mohan actually over this in a court as a barrister. I would love to get a barrister and pay a barrister to represent my views and actually take on Joyland Mohan and the Good Law Project, because it's nonsensical, right? And further, further to this, right, these protected characteristics, right, which are like, for example, sex, race, gender, right? If a person, right, and this is the part that I really don't like, all these people who are like flag wavers for these European Convention rights, okay, they've been arresting protesters, right, who have been claiming to use those rights and putting them in prison, like all you Just Stop Oil and Stop ULEZ people, right? They're all in prison, right? And all those people who believe in those European laws, right, and this new wave of legislation are the ones who have actually been punished by it. And it hasn't actually been recognising their rights, because it turns out it would have been the English rights, the privileges that would have protected them and kept them out of prison and stop them getting arrested for expressing their views and political opinions. But that law's been completely undermined. And even the Attorney General and the police chiefs have not been fulfilling their duties and obligations with it when it's a legal requirement. It's a different jurisdiction. And that's completely and totally protected freedom of expression in the 1688 Bill of Rights, freedom of speech for matters that are to be brought to the Parliament, right? To be brought to as evidence and laid to the Parliament, right? That's complete freedom of expression, right? Freedom to express yourself in getting the laws made or changed. That's what freedom of expression is, right? You can't be arrested for it or prosecuted, but people have been getting arrested and prosecuted for it. Even when the acts of law like the Public Meeting Act have been getting ignored, even when there are laws like the Town and Country Planning Act, which allows you, if it's public property, you don't need consent or permission to attach things and possibly even paint things, right? As long as it's not private property. And then there are arguments over, whether you can be prosecuted or not on that for a criminal offence, or whether you're just not liable to civil claims, right? This is the thing. Now, what I don't like about it is this, okay? I think it's about honesty. I actually think it's about honesty versus liars and people who just don't like other people telling the truth, right? Or giving them the piece of their mind, giving them their opinion, and even making their opinion and mind illegal, right? And that's what we're getting into now. Now, this is the thing that I don't like about television as well, television presenters, and fake applause, little tunes, everything that puts makeup on it and, makes it larger than life or too good to be true, or all this fake decoration on the television, while they're laughing in the background and having a giggle and so forth. But then, people go back to real life, and life's actually quite miserable and depressing, right? And the same as what people do on social media, people are putting the best photos on there and taking photos with friends, and it's depressing some people because people are just showing all the ups in life and not the downs, right? Now, this is the thing, right? If you have an opinion, whether it's an opinion that is natural or comes to you by nature or by genetic or by upbringing or whatever that is, right, isn't that freedom of expression? Now, when you get this club who come along, this gang who come along, who say, they've got all these protected characteristics that they're knocking out, which are striking off certain freedoms of expression, which is completely counterproductive to the whole point of it, right? This is the thing. This new it's like the Ed Davey Club, right? It effectively is it's like Ed Davey and the Jamie Stone, and Carla Denyer and Joy Lamore. It's this Dave, Ed Miliband, Keir Starmer. This new wave cult, right? They don't like people telling the truth. And they are people who avoid the truth as well when they have done something wrong. They're not truthful people. They're not truth sayers, right? Keir Starmer, as a barrister, knows that if he makes a statement or says something which can incriminate him, it can get him into very big trouble. So he avoids truth like the plague when he's in the wrong. And he won't answer any questions in Parliament properly. He won't even let you publish a petition which is to wit and guaranteed to rake in signatures at a very high rate and be very popular and possibly even beat him in Parliament, right? Even if it's humorous or whatever, he doesn't want to lose, right? So they're starting to block certain things, even though this group, right, this blocking and banning group, social media blocking and banning group type movement, they don't like other people's truth when it's something that they're not happy with, right? But everyone can't like the same things. And when you go to a student house party, or when you go and have a philosophical discussion, right, many people get into these deep, very, very deep discussions of philosophy, right? And you have disagreements, and then you talk about it and describe it. Now, if you don't like women, or if you don't want to serve women, that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't go into the philosophy about it, even if you won't speak to women. Let's say, for example, that you talk to men, right? And you go to a man's club. They used to have these men's clubs. In fact, they didn't even speak to anyone, because in men's clubs, right, they used to sit in silence. They used to sit in these libraries and smoke and read and read books and smoke pipes, right? And it was silent. No one would talk, and they went to get away to not even speak to. They didn't even speak to other men, let alone women, right? They wanted silence, right? Is that discrimination? Having some peace and quiet and not speaking to anyone, right? But let's say, for example, you've got a very philosophical group of men who don't want to speak to women. Like, you could even call them priests. They send the nuns off to the nunnery. Get rid of them, right? Let's see these men are sat around. At least if they were honest and spoke about, debated, whether they should allow women in the club, or maybe they don't even want to talk about women. This is a thing. Let's just say, for example, right, if you've got a group of men who discriminate against women, they might even not want to talk about women, right? They might dislike women so much, right, that they don't even want to talk about them, right? That if you hang around with them or go to their places that they go to, if you speak about women, you get kicked out, right? So if they hate women that much, right, they would be so discriminating of them that they wouldn't discriminate against them because they wouldn't speak against them. So if they didn't even talk about them and say that they didn't like them or acknowledge they didn't like them, they wouldn't even raise the subject. How can discrimination come out? It would just be complete silence, wouldn't it, right? But then you say, oh, it's the way they're acting and behaving and conducting themselves, right? But they wouldn't even speak about it or give you an opinion of it, right? At least if you've got a group of men, for example, who completely hated women and didn't like them, and then they moaned about it all the time and said, oh, I can't stand women, I don't like them, right? At least they're honest. At least they're telling you, right? Which would you prefer, right? If you had to choose from A or B, a group of men who hated women so much that they didn't allow conversation of it, so therefore they never said a bad thing about women because they even didn't allow themselves to, right? Or a group of men who couldn't stand women and they discussed and philosophised about it and talked about it so much, but were honest about it. Now, this is the thing when you get into opinion, right? When you get into these woke people who are like, oh yeah, protected characteristics and all this protected characteristics nonsense, right? This is the thing. They just don't like people who are honest. Some people lie, right? And they don't tell the truth. Now, would you prefer someone to be honest and tell the truth and explain why they didn't like something, right? Which might lead them into being discriminative about it. Or would you prefer someone to be a complete compulsive liar and all the time say, oh yeah, I love this, I like this? Because what you're forcing them to do is act and behave like they like something when really they don't. And then you're actually forcing someone to live a life of lies. It's like, forcing someone to wear red all their life when they can't stand the colour, right? Or forcing someone to eat ice cream all their life when they don't like it. And all they do is go through the motions, but in their mind, they can't stand it, right? That's wrong. In fact, that's slavery. Now, the problem is, right, that this woman, this girl on the Good Law Project, she's going on about protected characteristics like male, race, sex, race, and gender, right? Sex, race, and gender. But this is the thing, right? With your sex, race, and gender, okay, a certain percentage of the population are men, and a certain percentage of the population are women. That's just God, right? That's God. That is a planet floating in space that we're on, where life has evolved through, through the forces of nature, whether you want to call them science, chemistry, biology, whatever, right? And that's just how it is, right? Now, it doesn't matter. This is the thing. We've got men and women, whether you like it or not, because that's what God created, right? If you don't get into messing with genders and all this, all this discussion of freedom of genders and so forth, right? Look, right, it is what it is, right? God made what he made, right? And we've got what we've got, right? Some bodies walking around, right? Generally speaking, I don't want to get into an argument about that, but whether you like it or not, there are human bodies that walk around that stand up when they go to the toilet, right? They stand against the wall and have a wee. And there are other bodies walking around that the majority of them sit down when they go for a wee, right? They don't stand up, right? And that's just how it is, right? Because that's how the primary design function works and culture. Now, if you want to say, right, through freedom of expression that you don't like that, or you don't like human bodies that walk around that don't go take a piss standing up, right, or sitting down, or whatever, to discuss it, to philosophise about it, right, to explore it, to even study it in education. Why don't these people like it? Well, let's listen to them and talk to them about it and so forth, right? This is a thing. You're being honest and you're talking about truth and you're wanting to learn, right, and understand, and freedom of expression. But these new protected characteristics, right, are making it a crime and unlawful, okay? So, for example, if you don't want a woman with hairs and a chin to come into a barber shop and have a shave, right? If you only serve men, right? That is criminal. Now, and apparently, if you, the more honest you are about it, the more criminal you are. And the less honest you are about it, and the more you lie and pretend, and even then start going about the actions, which, you really don't want to have to do it. If you really don't like eating porridge, but someone makes you eat porridge, I'll do anything to get on television, right? Are you abusing that person, right? If you get, 20 people, right, and abuse, and say, right, eat this porridge now, and they say, I don't like it. Well, you have to serve these women. Serve these women, or I don't like women, I can't stand them. Serve them now, or you're a criminal. It's discrimination, right? Eat this porridge now, right? Eat this porridge. I'll do anything to get on television, go sit in a bath of baked beans, right? No, you will sit in the fucking bath, right, of baked beans, and you will fucking eat them, right? That's what you're eating, because that's what food you're having, right? This is the thing. And now you will serve 500 women and shave their hairs off their chin, right? Whether you're, no, I don't like women, I don't want to serve them. Well, you're a criminal. Now, this is the thing, right? There are loads of barber shops, and not everyone hates women, right? So just find one where they'll serve them, right? But this is the thing, right? What's actually happening is that these protected characteristics, okay? Now, this is the thing. Look at crime for assault, right? In law, since time immemorial, in whatever law there has been in England, whether you go back to the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, right, or 2000s, right, there's always been a general offence in crime in law where if you strike or assault someone, it is a criminal offence, right? So why does it matter, right, if it's a man or a woman who you hit for a criminal? Because it's always been a crime. So it doesn't matter in law if you punch a man or a woman, because it's assault, right? Now, if you assault someone, it is a criminal offence defined in law. You don't need to know if it's a man or a woman, right? The evidence is, was this person assaulted? Give me evidence to prove that there was an assault or there wasn't an assault. There was harm caused or not. Now, for assault, right, which is, violence and force, you don't need to prove whether it's a man or woman. Now, obviously, you might need to prove whether they were overpowered or not and so forth, but that's just proving whether they were assaulted or not, right? Now, this is the thing. You don't need, right, to identify a gender, really, unless you're, you obviously have to identify the victim's identity, the individual. You have to identify the person with, to know who they are. But it doesn't matter whether they're male or female for the offence of assault, because assault is a criteria for assault, right? So why do you need to, you're bringing in, what you're doing is why were they assaulted, right? Now, this is the thing, now you're wanting to create another offence that this person doesn't like men or women. But what's the point? I mean, you might as well just say, you don't like ballet dancers, right? That's why you assaulted them, or, and when you're getting into this gay and lesbian, but it might be a cricket club. A load of women might go around, they might go to a cricket match and kick a load of guys in the bollocks, right, as I would like cricketers, right? That's an assault, right? If a load of women on a hen party, right, go to a cricket club, right, on a hen party, we still at her shoes, and they just go and, like, oh, let's have a laugh, right? And they just boo the cricket players in the balls, right? Are the police going to go, oh, that's discrimination, that you're men haters, right? Or was there assault or not? You don't need discrimination. If they kick them in the balls, right, that is an assault with evidence of physical harm, right, with applied law. You don't need, but they want to make all these offences. Oh no, why you're targeting them, right? It's almost like a philosophical puzzle. The Ed Davey crew, the Carla Denyer crew, the woke crew, the right and wrong crew group, right? They're trying to put their philosophy into law. So when you're like, sit down and talk to someone. Okay, let's solve this problem, all right? Why are there all these assaults? Why are there all these assaults? Well, this man was offended and he didn't like what the other man said, right? So he hit him because he was angry, right? Now, that's anger management. It doesn't really matter, right, if he punched them because she's a woman, or he punched her because she was a tennis player, or he punched her because of, like, this is the thing. They're wanting to do philosophy on it and try and work out the problem, but why make it a criminal offence in law and then prosecute all these people for their opinions and views and say, now we're going to solve it all now? All these thoughts that you're having in your brain of things that you don't like, we're going to make them all discriminative and illegal, right? And a crime, a criminal, and then we'll solve the problem. And eventually, right, you won't do any of these bad things because every single thing will be illegal, right? But what you're doing is you're using the law to control every person's particular different reactions, opinions, thoughts and views to a particular criteria that's designed in law, which ends up actually becoming, you're trying to design the culture and customs of the people to a legal criteria, right? Now, how is, right, designing, right, the behaviour, thoughts and conduct of a nation into a codified law criteria gradually over time when you bring in these protected characteristics, right? And now what do you end up with? You don't end up with freedom of expression. You end up with the complete opposite of it. And this is where Keir Starmer gets an F in law. This is where Keir Starmer gets a 0, nil, none, and a fail in government policy, a fail in life, and why he hasn't, in his life, done one privileges representation for any protesters, right? Even though he probably knew that the 1688 Bill of Rights existed, because he's not doing the law properly. And this is the thing, right? Now, what we've got is we've got these people in government like Jamie Stone. I'm not saying that I don't like Jamie Stone. He's a likeable guy. I like Jamie Stone, right? But what he does in the Petitions Committee is wrong and illegal, okay, and false. Because, for example, this Petitions Committee, right, they're going on about these standards. We've got standards, right, but they don't, what are these standards, Is it an A or a C or a B? Do you have to have a B in English? Is that the standard? But they're not giving any standards which correlate to the education system standards. Well, they're actually political standards of the political party's own personal preference and design, which is effectively like they're discriminating against people because they don't want you to be rude or witty or abusive or even, or you've got to be absolutely honourable the whole time. But yet, right, the Petitions Committee, they came out with this report and they said, we want to, since Tony Blair's, leading up to Tony Blair's number 10 Downing Street petition site and then following it, right? They said in around 1991, 2, 3, right, and then again in 2004, they said, right, we want to, I quote, relax the rules about petitioning. Relax the rules in the report. And they said, make it less formal, more casual, right? And modern, okay, not having to use all this, the right to the Right Honourable Commons or to the Lords and Commons, to the Right Honourable Lords and Commons assembled, the humble petition of X, Mr. X, right? But that's been honourable, right? All petitions must be respectful and honourable, right? So how do you achieve that? Well, to be respectful and honourable, then you go to the Right Honourable, the Lord Binningfield, the humble petition of Mr. Johnson. That's being respectful. But they're actually saying, no, you don't have to we're modernising. You don't have to do the tradition. But the tradition, what is the traditional part of it? Well, actually, the component of the traditional part of it is the honourable part of it. By writing to the Right Honourable Lords assembled in Parliament and Lord Temporal Spiritual and Commons or whatever, to the Commons Knights Burgesses, right? The humble petition of Mr. Johnson, you're actually being respectful. Now, when you write, Dear John, that's just a letter. Everyone writes that for a letter, or, at the end put regards, or kind regards, or respect, or yours faithfully, or whatever. Now, they're saying to modernise, they don't want to do that. They just want to put, reform the EU directive on, chocolates, right? Or reform the standards on food hygiene, right? So that is very matter of fact. Now, when you write a title, that the opening part of it, the opening part of it that starts is straight to the point, right? Change food hygiene standards, right? That is very summary. It's very matter of fact. It's like, very, you couldn't be more formal than that. It's like shirt, tie, shoes, belt, buckle, right? Business, right? Let's get down to business. With what do you want? Oh, hello, John. Well, I'm going to tell you what I want. Now, look, get to the point. Well, actually, I thought this was informal. Hi, John, how you doing? Hi, Jamie Stone. What you been up to? What's Keir Starmer been up to, right? What's he been up to? Well, he's been annoying everyone, by, breaking every single Labour Party policy you can think of. Look, let's not be casual now. Let's not be informal. Let's be formal, right? Case, look, I'll edit this for you. Certain persons upset by the Prime Minister expressed grievance, right? What is happening in the Petitions Committee, right? They want something extremely matter of fact, to the point, non-diverting, concise, summary, and very to the point. That is the criteria of formal. What does the word formal mean? Right? It's like official, neat, smart, precise, business. If people turn up in a shirt and tie and it's got to be neat, and then John sits at this table with his name John on it, and then Margaret sits at a table with her name Margaret on it, and then there's a table with the place names Alex, John, Sam, Phil. You've got to sit in your place. This is formal, right? Now, I really don't know what planet Jamie Stone is on, and I don't dislike him as a person, but this is his politics. That's formal. That's what it is, right? E-petitions, when they're rejecting half of these petitions, claiming standards, is because they're informal. They're not shirt and tie. They're not name tags on tables. They're not to the point. Summary, just keep it to what you want. Very clear and short. Don't diverge. No information which is not needed. Right? Yes, boss. Yes, boss. Yes, boss. Yes, boss. This is what the word formal is. How could Keir Starmer, right, not know that is what formal is, right? Yeah. In the report, they said we want to make e-petitions, right, informal and relaxed, casual, right? Like, Axe Keir Starmer's pension instrument, right? Because, he's not keeping people happy. Oh, we can't have that. This is the thing. It's casual. It's to wit. And even on the London privileges from the Lord Mayor of London, the Artful Dodger, to wit, right? This is the thing. the petitions committee standards, I don't know what who these clerks of Parliament are. The clerks of Parliament, the Journal Office of Parliament, the Speaker's Office staff, right? You know, it's like, you know, they've got the Speaker of Parliament, right? And he's got a little music tune now, right? So Lindsay Hoyle, it's like, Speaker, Speaker, like in the left corner, the right, the Honourable, the Magnificent Sir Lindsay Hoyle of Parliament, Speaker, Speaker, Speaker. It's all right to have a WWF wrestling match or a boxing match style, right? He likes that. Oh, this is cool. This is modernised. Look at the Speaker song, the Speaker tune of Parliament. It's modern. It's modern. You know, it's like Erwin R. Schneider. You know, the tax lawyer, but you know, no one's getting tax relief from Sir Jim Hara, are they, for the petition, non-profit petition? They're not giving him a way to claim the tax back, right? You know, there's Erwin R. Schneider, you know, the wrestler. There's the thing. These petition standards, right? There's no academic standard being imposed or set, right? They're not actually, the word standard, right, is you actually have to have a identified grade thing which you can point to and indicate, right? And what they're actually doing is your petition's too casual, right? It's not formal enough. It's too informal. But they said that they wanted to make it informal. They wanted, petitions need to modernise, right? You know, it's almost like, you know, can have a little hip-hop song in there as well, you know, Speaker, 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 yo, Speaker, yo, Speaker. You know, it's like Jamie Stone, Petitions Committee. You know, it's like Jamie Stone. I'm getting modern with Jamie Stone. I'm getting modern with Jamie Stone. This is informal. This is casual. This is informal. Oh, no, sir. Can you just say, reduce the tax on the commission by 3%? That is it. Yes, sir. Let me tighten my tie up. It's not quite precise. I need to put another belt buckle on. Well, you'll have to tighten your belt buckle up by 3 notches. It's not up to standards. What this petitions committee report is trying to make out, right? And you need to understand who these people are and what they're doing. Ed Davey, right? They're con men. They are con men, right? Charlatans. They've got no self-reflection at all. Either they're con men, con artists, and it's like they're trying to sell you something which is not what it is. It's like trying to sell you some handcuffs and say that, you know, I'm not trying to lead you into slavery, right? Oh, you know, you know, it's like trying to say, oh, we're selling freedom, right? It's like Ed Davey, right, with a van full of handcuffs, right? And he's got a sign saying, for sale, freedom, come get your freedom here, right? But it's handcuffs, which is a false representation, right? Now, who is he fooling? If Ed Davey, right, has got a van like Arthur Daly, right, full of handcuffs in the back, like, you know, in pallets full of them and boxes full of them, right, and he's selling them for, like, you know, £2.50 each, but his sign on the back of the van says, freedom, come get your freedom, right, but he's selling handcuffs, right, that is a false representation. So who's he fooling? Is he just oblivious to it? Is someone just giving them and he doesn't really know what they are? Or is he trying to deceive you, right? Now, to compare that analogy, right, in the Petitions Committee report, they are selling us for sale, on a big sign, for sale, right? You know, modernisation, informality, relaxed rules, right? But they're not doing that. What the Petitions Committee standards are could not be more opposite of it. Completely not that. The absolute polar opposite. More than 50% of the petitions are getting rejected. Rejected. Right? Rejected. More than half. Because of standards. But what standards? Everyone goes to school. It's compulsory education in England to go to school, right? What is the standard? A, B, or C, right? You know, or aren't you allowed to submit? What educational standard are they working to? It's actually what the Petitions Committee and parties themselves want or don't want to publish, like or don't like, right? So it's like justices in the court, really, when you come to your freedom of expression. The European human rights say everyone has got the freedom of expression, but by the time they've struck off all these protected characteristics, there's no freedom of expression left, right? But not that type of expression. Well, it's not freedom. It's not. You can't sell it as freedom of expression when it isn't that. What you're selling is. You don't have the freedom to express yourself in all these things that we say because it might upset someone, right? Or it's not very nice, right? So you need to admit it, come to a truth, right? And the truth is that it is not freedom of expression. You're trying to pretend that it is. You're trying to sell it as that, but it's not. So either you're falsely representing it, or you're lying, or you just are clueless. Then this is the thing. And this is what politicians are doing for deception. And it's actually the same thing, but either whether it's through the European laws or whether it's through the Petitions Committee or whatever, it's the same thing. They're trying to make out, they're trying to package something as a certain thing, but when you open the surprise, it's not what you thought it was going to be, right? You're disappointed and let down. And yet the government are the ones who are disappointed and letting people down. The harm that Keir Starmer is doing to people and the upset that he's causing people for his legal right to make and change the laws and set the taxes, right? There's people are angry about it, furious. Right? But he's got the legal right to not be liable because of illegal prosecutions by the King's Bench for matters that are cognisable only by Parliament, right? Now, on the basis of that, right, it means that there are people in the world who can make decisions that upset, infuriate, or even harm people's lives. But these are tough decisions we've got to make. These are tough actions. But because the Prime Minister is the Prime Minister and he's the one who gets to choose what the laws are, all the people who are impacted by it and, short of money and furious and annoyed and go campaigning in the streets, right? That's just a consequence. Now, this is the thing. You get consequences from those protected characteristics, right? Those protected characteristics, right? We're going to refuse a few women from these hairdressers, right? We don't want to serve them. Oh, God forbid. Well, Keir Starmer's had to take some money off some people so they can't go out and, they seem a bit more angry, Certain people are authorised to upset and harm people and even, take the money from them and distress them because they're allowed to, they're privileged, right? This is a thing, Is working class a protected characteristic? You'd have thought that all the people who have voted Labour their whole lives, right, the Labour Party, right, who are meant to be for the working class or for the sick or the poor, right, Labour Party policies regard, poor people as a protected characteristic in their policies, but apparently not so now because they're actually taking money off people and making them more poor and the poorest. So you might as well By the time Starmer's finished punishing people, right, which is his whole life and career in the CPS, by the way, he's caused that much harm and upset to people that you might as well have just, turned away a few women from a barbershop. It don't make sense. You're bringing in these particular... And who is it who are the ones who are demanding these protected characteristics? Are the people with those characteristics? What are the chances of that? Asian people, Indian people, Muslim people, Islam people, they're the ones who demand these characteristics, right, in law, that they're protected. Where's the characteristic for poor people to be protected? So Jeff Bezos can't make money out of them. He's got to do it out of the goodness of his heart, for the goodness of the planet, and not for a personal profit. Just because he's good at running a business, right? Roll his sleeves up, right? Oh, well done. We'll give him an Oscar instead, or whatever, right? No, he wants all the money with trillions at disposal, and then get to dictate policy and design the whole country to his, architect's design and so forth, or whatever. You might as well have Elon Musk, running a political party. This is the thing. If you really are philosophical, right, and really are deep in understanding, this is a thing. Most of these people with these protected characteristics, right, who are demanding them, like Priti Patel, aren't that deep people. They're not that philosophical, and they're actually not that intelligent, because if they were, right, they'd realise that, all this false representation and lies. And the government, right, actually now, since Tony Blair, scrapped the death penalty for perjury, right, and it's no big deal. That's someone else's problem now. There's no death penalty for perjury. Well, that's not my problem anymore. Death's not my problem. If I deceive the country and subvert the rights of the subjects and betray my country, well, it's not my problem anymore, because it's not God forbidding. It's not God fearing anymore. Tony. If you commit treason, you might have to be executed. Well, it's not my problem anymore, because I abolished that. So there's nothing to fear, nothing to be scared of. Who's Tony Blair got to be scared of? This is the thing. And that's the problem with this government. They've got no one to be scared of. They're not God-fearing anymore when it comes to lies and corruptions and so forth. And then this is what the judges are doing. They're just carrying it on. Well, they are scared because they don't want to be officially. They are officially recognising knowledge as being corrupt, because everyone's outside the court shouting that they're corrupt. But within their peers, they're right and honourable. As long as Lady Lavender and Mr. Chamberlain think that, as long as they're having a hug and handshaking behind the scenes, as long as they're still calling each other right and honourable, and they've got their police guards around them, it doesn't really matter if the crowds are kicking off or not. This is the thing, and this is why Keir Starmer. The petitions committee are blocking everything out, because it's the in writing, it's the public demand, legal claim in writing, which, if it achieves official numbers, can force and make these people do certain things and even confess certain things that have been done wrong, right? And they blocked it, they've obstructed it, because they don't want us to prove it, and it's meant to be the avenue of redress, which is being blocked, right? And we're being obstructed, and they're lying. They're lying about these rules and standards, but they're trying to make out, oh, we're doing you a favour. We've got this great new website, ePetitions website, right? We're doing you a favour. We're modernising. We're making it less formal. Informal, right, and relaxed, modern, but they're not. I've never, ever in my entire life, ever attempted to use a facility or used a facility which is not more formal. If when you turn a volume up to 11, right, it's got an extra. The BBC iPlayer goes up to 11, not just 10. That's maximum, right? how formal that petitions committee is. You need to turn the dial up to 100, right? There's nothing more formal. I don't think a Halifax bank executive meeting is more formal than that petitions committee standards, right? There's nothing on this planet, right, that is more formal, demanding formalities, right, than that petitions committee standards. Nothing. There is no, even the civil, even the justice system of England, the civil justice system of England, right? When you go on the website, I mean, I even actually think that the criminal justice system is less formal than that petitions committee. Sloppy police with the shirts hanging out and so forth, detectives or whatever, sitting in the police, being interviewed by the police, right, arrested illegally, by the way, being interviewed by the police in an interview room, right, being accused of a very serious offence, like, for example, criminal damages, when, by the way, it isn't criminal damage, and you've got consent from the law, deemed an express consent automatically in the law, right? When the police haven't got a clue what they're talking about, right? A very serious, process like the police, where you could end up being called a criminal, and you might even end up going to prison or doing community service, is less formal, right? It's less formal in a police interview room and when you're filling forms in than that petitions committee, right? There's nothing in the existence of Earth that is more formal than trying to get one of those, and you can't even write that much, by the way, published, right? And they've all of the required, right? This is the thing for, like, make it honourable, right? The parts that make it honourable and respectful was the inclusion and usage of the words honourable, right? And humble, right? The humble petition of Sally Johnson, right? Oh, she's being humble because she says it, right? And when you write the words to the right and honourable, I am saying that they are right and honourable, this is a respectful petition, it's required to include it. Now, they scrapped that, let's modernise, ditch that, but now they're saying petitions have to be, respectful. Well, they've taken out the bit which manifests and includes the respectability, because you set it in writing that you are, I, Mr. Humble Johnson, right? This is the thing, I would take that bit out. Now, the petition that's asking for what you're asking for, the actual details now aren't required to include the part that made it honourable. So it's just, speaker, yo. So, in the left corner, Keir Starmer, who was his pensions plan axed by giant haystacks. This is the thing. They're not. It's not casual. It isn't casual. It's not informal. And if you actually get the National Archives, if you get Dr. Brodie Waddell's website out and read through the petitions, there's all kinds of caricatures. Now, I will admit that, they definitely expressed dissatisfaction if people weren't polite, but that's not to say that what you can and can't ask for. And also, people did mention all kinds of different things, which actually ends up being an extremely valuable historical contribution, because we get to find out history about what people were petitioning about, what their problems were, what their troubles were, and a bit about the process. Because if they would have redacted or restricted those petitions to just say, right, all right, my honourable Justice, MP for Somerset, Mr. Smith, on the 5th of September, took £3 from me and he owes me 10 or whatever, right? This is the thing, right? Those petitions are like, oh, well, I went to the sheriff's office and I didn't find anything on the wall. I couldn't find any privileges, so I'm wondering if I can bring charges against, the bishop's servant or whatever. This is the thing, there's evidence in there, but evidence through matter of fact, descriptive, it's almost kind of like, not going down, it's like when you used to go down to the post office, right? When you used to go down to the post office, people used to trust each other, and a lot of the old ladies used to meet each other there, right? And they'd be talking, right? They would be communicating, right? Saying, oh, well, Mr. Smith came round the other day and he was all excited, and apparently someone kicked him in the knee and they ran off, and then he had to go get his wife to come round, and then she fell on the floor and, oh, it was a right mess. He was very upset, right? That's like the petition. These old petitions, right? And the post office now, no one's, they're shutting. Firstly, they're closing them down. A lot of them. People don't talk to each other hardly. You've got mixed ethnic groups, and it's a lot less community. But that's what they're trying to encourage. That they're trying to encourage mixing of different ethnic groups, because that's what is happening. And what you will actually find is that people just queue up now. They're all strangers. They just queue up. They don't talk to each other like on the tube, right? That's formal, right? When you go into a post office and you go to the machine and you swing the lever down and then you click the thing and then you go to the digital screen and go beep, 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 scan it, beep, and then drop it in the box and walk out and don't speak to one person, right? Stand in a queue, line up, right? And then you don't even have a human person behind the counter, right? That is formal, right? If you go back to the village with a post office, right, and people chatting and talking, right, that's informal, right? That's casual. And in fact, it's actually more respectful. But what these new standards of these people are for respect is stand in the queue, read the instructions, blip the machine, and then, go out again, these are the standards. It's very, it's almost kind of like, some sort of medical process or something, right? Some kind of doctor with a scalpel, doing a precision incision or something, right? And that's not informal. That when a doctor is operating a precision operation, right, that is not informal. That's actually formal, right? Formal surgical gloves, formal surgical clothing, formal surgical tools, right? Formal surgical dialogue. It's not informal. So they're not they have not relaxed the petition rules at all. They've gone completely the opposite. It's a false representation. These people are like they're the worst salesmen ever. They're selling you something which is not what they're trying to make out that it is, but they're trying to lead you to believe that it is. And that's coming back to this European Union things. That's what's happening through those directives. They're trying to make out and claim that they've got this freedom of it's freedom of expression now. Everyone's got the right to freedom of expression, right? You know, that's what they're trying to. That's what they're selling to you. They're selling this freedom, right? Like the Petitioners Committee in their report was claiming that they were going to be more informal, more relaxed, and more modern, right? But they ditched all the part that inserted and required the respect and honourability to be expressed and declared, right? So it's just false representation after false representation. And what they're actually doing is all these new protected characteristics, they're actually, each one is striking off freedom of expression about this, 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 and this. And that's what the Petitioners Committee are doing with their undeclared standards, which no one actually even really knows what these standards are, just what the MPs like or don't like, right? It's no actual academic definitions, right? Just like ECU directives, well, you got to be respectful. Well, Keir Starmer has just lied against the manifestos that Labour ran on. They've just completely lied and gone against what they said they were going to do. And they've just taken actions to punish or to detrimentally affect all these people in society, right, who are very upset about it, annoyed, possibly even furious and angry, right? Now, are Labour voters a protected characteristic for the party they voted for? No, they're not, right? So, when you get to the philosophy of it, right, at the end of the day, right, these protected characteristics, where are they going with them? Now, either every characteristic, because, discrimination is like either all characteristics are protected or none of them are, or else you're discriminating against characteristics. It's not an intelligent thing at all. I get the feeling that it is the actual people who are coming into the country who are having to be tolerant of, who were actually being, these characteristics have been protected for them, because they aren't actually that intelligent and they don't really philosophise and understand. It's almost like the bully in the schoolyard, Well, you could say that it's like Marty McFly with Biff, on Back to the Future, getting bullied by him until he, punched him out. This is the thing, right? You could say that children being young is a protected characteristic. Is youth a protected characteristic in the law? Sex, gender, race is youth. Because if you're a small boy, right, you're not that strong and powerful compared to, a big man. If you've got a serious, criminal 40-year-old, right, and you've got a little young boy, he's vulnerable. So you might as well say, well, youth's a protected characteristic because young people are smaller. They're disadvantaged, right? So youth is a protected characteristic, right? You refused entry of someone because they're too young, right? This is the thing. But then you might say, well, are they allowed in a working men's club? Are they allowed to go play pool when there's people drinking alcohol around them? Is it bad influence, And then you might get a young kid saying, well, Keir Starmer, why don't we want you to make drinking alcohol illegal for 10-year-olds, right? And then Keir Starmer's like, no, right? Because, no, drinking alcohol is illegal in law for young people. It's a crime, right? Well. If we bring in a new protected characteristic, right? Like young people are protected and can't be discriminated against, right? Then that law should be illegal. You refuse to serve a 10-year-old at a bar. I mean, if he's not going anywhere, if he's 10-year-old and he's not got nowhere to go, you could put him in a pen, you could put him in a little pen or something, right? Lock him in a room, in a room with foam walls like the funhouse, right? You could say that, well, has he got a right to be drunk? Has a 10-year-old got the right to have alcohol? Or his brain is the fact that his brain is not properly developed. Is that the reason that he's not properly fully developed? Could it have strange effects on his brain? This is the thing. oh no, these are all sensible characteristics. They're sensible ones, but they're not sensible when you actually really put them to the proper intelligence test. They're not sensible because, look at the tampon tax petition. Men generally don't need tampons and don't use them or buy them for themselves unless they buy them for their wives, right? It's not needed in life, right? If you're a man, right, as a consumer man does not need to buy tampons for himself in life, right? They're not required to live. You could say, well, someone living out in the wild doesn't even need anything to live, right? They just live from nature. But what I'm saying is in the modern consumer world, right, in society, right, it's not something that men need to involve themselves with, really, or pay much attention to if they don't have to, right? So, I think the argument with these protected characteristics, it's almost like the introduction of unisex changing rooms and toilets. They never used to have unisex at the swimming baths when I grew up. You could go in there, you could get put 20p in and get a tomato soup from a machine. You can't do that anymore. So life's not got that much better. Now it's like £2 for a cost of coffee, which makes you get fat with all the extra milk that you're drinking, right? Oh, they've got unisex showers now. Oh, look, like there's women in here. I've never seen women before in a shower or whatever, This is the thing, I never used to have that. Or toilets or whatever. Now, when they introduce unisex toilets, that's quite a big, dramatic change, right? Because some people might not have been used to having the other sex wandering around in the changing rooms, right? So some women might not like it because they're not used to it. Now, if you make a unisex toilet in a bar and restaurant, right, where there's a mirror and everything, and women are wanting to do the makeup and have a chat or whatever, and men have to, mix with that, some people aren't going to like it. They might not like it because, firstly, they're not used to it. Now, who's changing the culture and customs there is the proprietor. The proprietor is changing the customs and traditions of the establishment. And then when you get people coming in, they're not quite used to the behaviour and conduct of it. They might not like it, right? But then if you make it illegal to discriminate against whether or not they should have those toilets, you're actually saying that if they start talking about it and complaining about it and discussing it in the pub, whether they put those toilets back as they were, then they're going to be discriminative against a protected characteristic, which is a unisex toilet, right? And then you're going to criminalise them all. But they didn't. Now, if they would have voted for those toilets themselves, right, and the majority of clientele had said, right, we want a unisex toilet in this pub and we're going to vote for it, right, and then the majority did, then the majority are going to have wanted it and the minority aren't, and there's going to be less complaints, right? But if the proprietor, if the owner of it, right, if he just goes and does it because he owns it and he can do what the hell he wants, right, and then everyone kicks off, then they might not be happy about it. And he might then say, make a new rule for the restaurant or pub and say, well, tough, right? If you discriminate against my unisex regime, then you're going to be thrown out and even barred, right, from using this establishment, right? Which is effectively what the government are doing. If you discriminate against this, these protected characteristics, you're going to be criminalised. You're going to be arrested. You're going to be shunned by the government and the society, right? But did those people vote for those things or not? Or has someone just implemented them? Well, this is the thing. This is when you get to who's making these new laws. Who's making these new laws and putting them through the government that all the countries got to abide by, just like the landlords, right? Just in a pub with his new unisex toilets, right? And these new rules, right? And you say, well, they're the parties that people voted for, right? So it must be what people want. the law to be and the facilities in the country to be, because that's what they voted for. But this is when you get to Keir Starmer now, what he's doing. They're saying that Labour voted for him, but he's doing things that he didn't run to get elected on. And he's even doing things opposite to what he said that he'd do when he got voted in, right? That's like having a landlord in a restaurant or pub saying to everyone that, he's going to, he's going to make the unisex toilets back into separate ones again, men and women, right? And the changing rooms or whatever. But then, after people, he's going to let them vote on it, but then after they voted on it, he's going to just change his mind and do different. So they might have voted for separate toilets, the men and the women's toilet separate, but then he goes and does the complete opposite of what his clientele voted for. So they're not happy. So then they might stamp their feet and jump up and down, like, Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil complaining, right? So that he's not doing what his clientele want or asked for. And that's when people are kicking off. And this is when the Petitions Committee is getting blocked and obstructed, when people are coming to the government with grievances, complaints, disputes, right? And they're not letting you, they don't want to publish it. They don't want to put it up on the notice board in the restaurant. And they don't want to let you collect signatures on it, because the landlord might get a large number of people, clientele, forcing him to change it when he actually didn't want to. He did opposite to what they voted for. This is the thing. Now, the Petitions Committee, actually, it turns out when you read the Petitions Committee rules, it says that they can send petitions to different departments, but I don't know that's if they get 10,000 signatures or 100,000 or just anyway, right? So, and that, I think that's separate from being debated in a committee, right? When you actually get 100,000 signature debate, there are some rules, it turns out, that they can refer them to different departments, these petitions, right? But the thing is, they're officially rejecting it on a lot of occasions. They're putting, this was rejected, so they're saying that they're not going to act by it. Now, are some of these other ones that don't even appear on the rejected list or don't even get any action at all, just go to limbo, are they quietly referring them to certain committees and getting acknowledged even without your 10,000 or 100,000 signatures, right? That could be, but not when they're actually officially rejected. That's the thing. So it might be that you don't actually need extremely large numbers of signatures, but what happens if you want to achieve that? What happens if you want to achieve a debate? And what happens if you want to get loads of people behind it and collect loads of signatures? That's the thing. You've been obstructed from doing that. And it's not actually really, officially, the petition isn't completed until you hand it in complete and full. And then they can decide whatever they want to do with it. And that's one thing that the new process has done. It's mixed up the order. The government are taking possession. The government are taking possession of the petition from you before you finished it. And then they're kind of like not letting you finish it, right? Because they're saying, well, it doesn't really matter whether you'd hand it in finished or not, because if we don't want to act on it, we're not going to anyway, right? But if you would hand it in complete and it had 1 million signatures, it's not up to standard. Well, you say, 10,000 signatures is a very high standard, 100,000 is. If it isn't up to standard, why is it so popular? Isn't the evidence that 100,000 people support it evidence that it is to standards? Who's to say what these standards are? 100,000 people think it's up to standards and they want it actioned, right? Oh, it's not respectful to us, the MPs. But this is the thing. Keir Starmer, every decision that he makes in government and acts on and the government implements is disrespectful to someone or other. It's harming, negative, or has an implication or impact on certain people. Like they don't get certain allowances as much, or they're not allowed to, smoke outside pubs, or whatever it is, right? And this is the law of cause and effect. The British government, the existence of it is based on a principle of cause and effect, right? Whereas it's impossible to avoid upsetting certain people or even infuriating them, right? But, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. A prime minister's got to do what a prime minister's got to do, right? But that's the basis and principle behind the protected characteristics, right? And this is the thing, we got to turn some customers away, unfortunately, right? I can only cut 50 people's hair today. I've only got an hour left, right? I'm closing at 3 o'clock, right? I've only got enough time to cut 10 people's hair, but there's 20 people in the waiting room, right? Now, if you can only cut 10 people's hair, right, and the other 10 have got to get turned away, he has to turn away 10 people, right? But what Keir Starmer's saying is that if you get turned away, because I'm only going to serve the women, right? I'm only going to serve the women, right? All the men will have to leave, right? Now, this is the thing. Now, you're still going to have 10 people. If you've got 10 men and 10 women in a barbershop, right? And you got 20 people in a barbershop, 10 men and 10 women, right? Now, if you say, it doesn't matter whether you say, right, 10 of you, I'm not going to serve you, right? Because I can't, right? Or you say, right, I'm only going to serve the women, 10 women and not the 10 men, right? Whichever one you choose of that, you're going to turn 10 people away and not serve them. But what the Good Law Project is saying, and that girl on the Good Law Project, right? She's trying to make out that you're a criminal person, right? And you should be put in prison, and the whole country should regard you a criminal in law, and they're going to put a stop to it, that if you've got a hairdresser's with 20 people waiting, and you can only possibly serve 10 of them, you'll go to prison and you're a criminal because it was the men who got the haircut and not the women, rather than out of the 20 people, 10 of them got the haircut and the other 10 didn't, right? Because of what sex they are, right? Now, this is the thing. There are hairdressers that exist which are more aimed at women, right? Perms, washing hair, doing women's hair. And there are hairdressers that exist, they have salons, and they have ones which are more like, Turkish barbers, right? So they've already got the existence of hairdressers which are more suitable and even advertised specifically for men, right? It's just insane. Now, this government, they're trying to ban dislike or opinion. They're trying to make it so that people aren't really allowed to not like something. But like it or lump it, basically. It's like, you like it or lump it, you're going to be a criminal. They're trying to make people like everyone and everything, or you're a criminal. That's what they're aiming for, right? So, and you're not allowed to dislike anything. The way, as they're adding these protected characteristics in, and as they're expanding, you're not allowed to dislike, disappreciate, disapprove, disregard, refuse to engage with this list of things which is growing, right? But all the time, they're saying freedom of expression. Everyone's got the right to freedom of expression. What Ed Davey wants is, he doesn't want complete. It's not what he's selling. He's claiming he's selling freedom of expression, but he's not. What he's really selling is that you will like everything, okay? And everyone will like everyone, or else there'll be trouble. You're going to be a criminal, right? You will like everyone and you will like everything, but you won't be allowed to express yourself in any way contrary to that, right? You will like everyone, you will like everything, and you will not, it will be absolutely criminal to express any dissatisfaction, dislike, refusal, or anything. So it's actually not freedom of expression. It's not freedom of expression, right, at all. It is it's a forced acceptance of everything, and mainly everything that they're pitching and selling to you. Like, we've had to accept the McDonald's, we've had to accept the Subways, we've had to accept the Indian restaurants, we've had to accept the fish and chip shops, we've had to accept the Chinese restaurants, we've had to accept all these drive-thrus, we've had to accept all these ridiculous extortionate prices going up, we'll have to accept all of your village getting written off and redeveloped, the park, it basically is consent, accept, consent, accept, consent, accept, consent, accept. Ed Davey is selling consent, accept. But what are these standards? What is it that we're consenting and accepting? Well, the actual truth of it is, somewhere along the lines of these standards in the Petitions Committee, that is what this government want is acceptable or not acceptable. And as it turns out, casual